Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the XWF podcast with your host, Chronic Chris Page, them no good bastards, Thunder Knuckles, Bobby Bourbon, and yes, if available, Bearded War Pig. And the action starts now.
We're going to bring Theo in just a second, but before we do, we're going to cover the predictions numbers. So we predicted the pay-per-view, the three of us did, going into Snow Job. We're going to keep a running tally all year long, and the individual who scores the predictions correctly the most, we're going to make ourselves a little XWF Podcast Predictions Championship trophy, and you will be able to carry that for an entire year. So that being said, I'm going to kick this over to Thunder Knuckles because he has the updates. Let's hear them.
Chronic Chris Page got 5 right. Bobby Bourbon got 5 right. And Thunder Knuckles got 7 right.
So that being said, TK, you're in the lead going into March Madness here in the next couple months. I'm telling you here now that I'm coming for you. I made some predictions on this last show that, didn't want there to be complete washouts. So now you're on my radar. I'm coming for that trophy.
Trophy's mine.
We're going to see about that. That being said, so we're technically TK up 7, Bobby's at 5, I'm at 5. The prediction war will continue with March Madness.
And we move right along. We just had a very interesting and in-depth deal with Vinny. It's now time to bring in our two-part, our second guest. He's our second guest on the show. He's number one in our hearts. Ladies and gentlemen of the podcast, in the listening realm, I give you the one and only, I give you Theo Pryce. Theo, man, thanks for taking the time.
Absolutely. I am thrilled that you guys are doing this. And appreciate that, Vinny and I were two of the first names you thought of.
We told Vinny, the only thing that sucks is we couldn't line up the time frames to get you both on at the same time. That kind of sucked a little bit, but the fact that we're able to get you both on the same show, that's the silver lining and the saving grace there. I think it was unanimous between the three of us that if we were going to open it up and have guests, that the first two had to be, the principal owners of the Fed. It's the only way to go. And I think that was unanimous, wasn't it, Bobby?
Yep, absolutely. We all were just in agreement, like who we're going to get first. It's like, well, Vinny and Theo, do some credence. And I'm sure everybody wanted to hear what you guys had to say too,
Well, since you weren't in the mix on the recap of Snow Job, do you want to give any thoughts on the first pay-per-view of the year? I think that'd be the best way to open it up. If you have anything specific or just in general on the whole show, man, how did you think the first big show of the year came out?
I thought it was really, really good. I thought, that the roster put in a ton of effort. Vinny had mentioned it on the board, so there was like 79, 78 role plays, something like that for 11 matches. That's really solid. And when you factor in, that we do have RP limits now, whereas we didn't previously, I think it makes that number that much more impressive. From the standpoint of the person who put the show together, not by myself, I certainly had plenty of help, but it was actually pretty easy in that regard. Matches were coming in on time, which is always a struggle. They were all very well written. The match writers, if they ever have questions, they're great with them. They ask, they take minimal direction because we really, we want to see what the match writers come up with. We want them to put their own personal spin on things. There was a lot of really, really well written matches on that show. I mean, our version of the AEW Stampede, that football frenzy, was a lot of fun to read. The Universal title match that you, Chris, and Thad wrote, fantastic. The tag team title match I thought was really, really well done. Sense match with Holy Roman Warhorse was good. I mean, honestly, all the matches were great, but there were some that were as I was reading them, I'm like, wow, these people really put in a lot of time and effort into these matches, and they were clearly looking at the roster pages, seeing what these wrestlers do. Some of them I could tell they read the role plays because there was some match psychology involved that you could tell was kind of brought about by things that were said and done in role plays. And I think that's when that happens, that's above and beyond. That is not something we ask people to do. In most cases, I don't expect the match writers to read all the work because they're oftentimes writing their own role plays as well. But I thought it was great. I really did. I thought there was a lot of time and effort and care put into it. I think there was 6 title changes, something like that. That's always exciting when that happens. Yeah, I mean that's awesome. And I going into it, I didn't think it would be that high. Not to say that people don't have a shot. I mean, we try and for pay-per-views, we always try and book competitive matches. So when there are a lot of title changes, that's exciting. But yeah, all in all, I thought it was a really positive experience for everyone. I'm really looking forward to seeing what the next pay-per-view brings.
The other impressive number that we kind of brought up on with Vinny was not only there were 79 role plays, there were over 40 characters booked on the show, and that's impressive in its own right. Over 40 different role players were booked to take part of this, and I think there was only a handful of no shows. That's impressive.
We have Anarchy Thursday night, live from the Kirby Dome in Moscow, Idaho. That's interesting. First match, we have Solstice Tandem versus Joey Oddjob. Referee is Marty. Boris versus Ash Quinn. The referee is the Halo ref. GIF. Yep, that's what that is. The Thugs.
Well, I mean,
go ahead.
I was just to say, like, I'm gonna go back up to the first match on the card. Can we not just give Joey Oddjob just a little bit of credit for the amazing last name?
Yeah, that's a good last name.
Go ahead, man. I'm sorry. I had to laugh for a second.
Then we have the Thugs, Tommy Wish and John Black versus Arkin Blackwater and Brian Storm. Is Arkin right? Does anyone know?
I think that's how you pronounce it. Yeah.
Okay. Referee Chaz Bono. Then we got a musical interlude. Liza Minnelli. She'll be singing and performing Born in a Trunk in the Princess Theater in Acapello, Idaho.
I've never seen her live. It is amazing.
Oh, okay.
Or so I've heard.
Okay. I've never seen her live. I thought maybe you had.
No, I listen to shitty music, but not that shitty.
With Liza Minnelli, you'll laugh, you'll cry, and then you'll
want to die.
Yeah.
Moving on, we've got Big Money Oswald versus Scarlet the Huntress versus Savannah Knightley versus Minnie Morbid. What's the stip we got here? Idaho Spuds match. The entire match takes place in a gigantic ball pit filled with genuine Idaho potatoes. Winner is the last one inside the tater pit.
I mean, Vinny was obviously high off his mind when he put this card together.
Had to have been, right?
I see no other way around it.
The referee is Mr. Referee, which won't be confusing at all. Next match, we have Notorious Ned K versus Big Puddin' Herschel Kiss. Referee, Virginia Hyman. Man, that's going to be fun to hear back. Then we have the champion speaking. Ruby gives a heartfelt thank you as only the 3-time Anarchy champion can. Then we have our main event. Kinsey Gray versus Miss Fury. Last woman standing match. Referee, Ari Silverstein. Then we have a main event. Sarah Lachlan versus Billy Bass Ackwards. 5-count match. I almost messed that. I almost messed that one way up. And
Sorry,
the
dude.
referee is John Bale. Go ahead.
I think so. Obviously, we're coming out of pay per view, right? So reset buttons got to be hit, and things are gonna happen. This is a bigger Anarchy card than I'm accustomed to seeing. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 matches on the show. I mean, my eyes immediately get drawn to Kinsey Gray and Miss Fury in the last woman standing match.
Yep.
Mainly because I think there's some implications behind this. I think the winner of this needs to be challenging for that championship, needs to be challenging Ruby. I make no bones about it. I really enjoyed writing that match for the pay per view. For those four particular characters, because I am one of those guys that looks at your roster page if I write your match, and I do incorporate your move sets, and I look at your heights and your weights, and is this physically possible or feasibly possible? Like, you can't have a 175-pound or 125-pound chick throwing around a 300-pound guy. It's not going to happen. Within the realm of possibility. It's physically not possible. So you have to create different scenarios and situations, and what can get you there, get you to a point to where something like that happens. That's why I took those four, and because their bios were just fucking, it was magic. If you put all four of them in and you just mapped it out in your head, this match to me tells me who our next challenger is. Yeah, what are you thinking about this entire card? And what's going to be your highlight of it?
Truthfully, I don't have a ton of involvement with Anarchy. That's more of a Lane project. I do kind of pay attention to it on the periphery just because it helps with some booking. I think he does a really great job of following along with what's going on with every show, with every character on his show, and trying to book the most competitive matches, but also ones I think that gives you the most story potential.
Mhm.
For me, I mean, I'm a mini Morbid stan, so I'm kind of excited to see what that character can do. I always enjoy reading Ned Case promos. I don't know who Big Puddin' Herschel Kiss is, so I'm kind of curious to see what that's all about. To be honest with you, I know we have a crop of new referees that we're kind of breaking in, so that should be interesting. I'm really excited to see what Marty does. I know when I go to the grocery store every week, I run into a Marty. So he's kind of a pain in the ass. Doesn't really do a whole lot. So I'm hoping that our version's a little maybe upgraded, maybe a little better, take some direction perhaps. Um, Boris is always a fun read for me, so I'm kind of curious to see what's going on there. Ash Quinn is somebody who I think has been steadily improving with each match that she's had. Uh, Solus Tatum is a new character, so I'm kind of curious to see what's going on there. The Thugs, I think Robbie had mentioned previously when he was on with Lane, he's trying to build up the tag team division, and that's something that I can get behind because I've tried to do that several times myself. But I think there's a lot that can be done with the Thugs tag team. So I'm really excited to see that. And then of course Liza Minnelli. Who doesn't want to see Liza Minnelli perform in the middle of a show in Moscow, Idaho? Okay, besides Thunder Knuckles.
Well, I mean, I think the Liza performance is a golden opportunity for a heel to step up and do some heel shit.
That is true.
Wink, wink. No, in all seriousness, Bobby, what is there anything on this card particularly? I know that again we've reset, so we're obviously like there's going to be building to some different angles here. What strikes out on the card for you? Another piece of business on my end would be obviously hearing what Ruby has to say, but on your side of the coin, where are you at with it?
Well, I really feel like that a lot of it, Ruby and the main event with Lachlan, that's really building towards a big Anarchy Championship match, like we saw at the pay per view. That's going to be fun to watch. I think Kenzie Gray versus Fury is going to be good and competitive. Um, but that Idaho Spuds match, that's not, well, the tag team match too. Like I said, the rise of the tag team division it's great. But the Idaho Spuds match, I want to see that. It's a potato match. Should be interesting. Savannah Knightley, she's been doing some interesting moves on the boards. The Trash Talk forum. Big Money Oswald, Minnie Morbid, they speak for themselves. They have tenure here. Not very familiar with Scarlet the Huntress, but we'll see. I want to see that. I think that'll be a fun read.
Okay.
Well, I want to see the return of Sarah Lachlan. That's something that this card brings. Kinsey versus Fury. That's probably the one I want to see the most. It's going to be a good match. Yeah. Ruby's going to speak. You got to watch Ruby. She's gold. And that's where I stand with the Anarchy card.
We're gonna see some things happen for sure, and from there we'll shift into Savage. Aaron Hunt thought it would be great from 90,000 people to 3,000. It was a smart business move. Yeah, what have you not reprimanded her for that? She just cost you a lot of money.
I mean, the truth is we kind of blew our monthly budget with the last pay-per-view. So she did what she could, save us a couple bucks. The next pay-per-view is also going to be at a stadium, high capacity for fans. So you know what? She likes the intimate venues. What can I say?
But
She
see,
likes the small little things.
here's the thing
It's
though,
Philly.
Theo. Like you're running a stadium. You're not going to have any problems with that because you've got a headliner that can pack it for you. So again, the question remains: did we not reprimand her for taking us to a 3,000 seat skating rink?
It's Philly. The most famous wrestling venue in Philly was a bingo hall.
That is a very good point, and I will yield to that. Bobby Bourbon, get us going, brother.
All right, so Savage coming at us on the 13th of February, live at the Class 1923 ice rink at the University of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And let's just call it an intimate venue. First match is John Black versus Jerry Vaden versus the Storyteller versus Jim Jimson versus Claude Savage in a Valentine's Day massacre. Extreme rules, except there's a giant barbed wire heart at ringside with Valentine's bags underneath filled with weapons. No, it's not a rehash of the Jingle Hells match. It's the Valentine's Day massacre. Next up, we have Hawaiian Hardhead versus Savannah Knightley versus Corey Smith, a My Bloody Valentine match. Triple threat elimination style, except the only way to eliminate your opponents is to make them bleed. So, first blood elimination, but a cooler name. Then we have the Extreme title match, Alias versus Ash Quinn. And here's Ash Quinn. She's back to back. Like she's going to be traveling from Idaho to Philly. And an I love you. It's an I quit match. Rather than make your opponent say I quit, you have to get them to say I love you instead. That could be interesting. Then we have Them No Good Bastards, Bobby Bourbon and Thunder Knuckles versus Atara Themis and Betsy Granger in a Be My Valentine tag team match. The match itself is a typical tag style, but your RPs must have compliments about your opponents instead of trash. Anari Carnes versus Arkin Blackwater Centurion in a Candy Weapons match. There'll be a variety of weapons scattered around ringside, with the catch being they're all made of Valentine's candy. And then your main event, Television Championship. Charlie Nichols is defending against Jenny Mist. Charlie gets to choose the stipulation in his first RP. So, top to bottom, this is a pretty loaded card. That's what I have to say about it. TK, what's besides, of course, our match where I don't get to smack talk? What are you focused on? What What screams, awesome to you?
Well, the television title. Savage is all about the television title. If you don't have it, you're not the champion of Savage, right? So it's all about that. So Charlie versus Mist is probably what I'm excited for the most. But it is a pretty packed card. The extreme
It is.
title is on the line. It's going to be a good match.
There's there's three things that I'm looking at right now on this card. Four things actually of this card, and the six match show. One, two, three, yeah, six or seven match show. The first thing is it's at least at least while when my tenure on Savage, it was rare that you had two title matches on the card. So that pokes out initially, and Alias with Ash Quinn, and we kind of touched on the nature of that extreme title and what successful defenses bring you. Right? It's a game. I see you, Alias. Then you have the television title, the main event. This is obviously it is the be all end all title on this brand. Charlie is seemingly unstoppable. You have Jenny, who she's just up for role play of the month right now for work that she did with Snow Job. That itself is it's a pick 'em. The match that I think has the show stealing potential is the tag match, and that's not just because you guys are on the podcast; it's because of who you're facing. Betsy's on fire, and Atara will always step her game up when she's ready to sink her teeth into something. So I think that that's going to be the sleeper match of the night, and it could also be the show stealing match of the night, just because of what the possibility that Atara and Betsy combined could bring you guys, and take out the fact that your both of your biggest weapons are taken out of here, and that's your mouth.
Yep.
The, the final piece that I have my eye on, and we touched on it in the pay per view review. Hawaiian Hardhead's emerges back into the Fed, and this being his first match back. This is and he's in there with a very game Corey Smith, who's always dangerous. But this will be a really good tell on writing in his writing stance of is there going to be some rust, or is he going to be able to come right back out the gates? Because when this kid's motivated, man, he can do some shit. I'm telling you, I've seen it. I've had to judge it before. Theo, what's your take coming off of Snow Job, and we roll into the first quote unquote major program of the three, and we get a loaded card like this.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of crazy because I remember not too long ago when the shows after a pay-per-view were always some of our smallest shows because people, were going heavy at pay-per-views, dropping 6, 7, 8 RPs like it was nothing, and now that's not the case anymore. And as a result, and I don't know that this is something that we had thought of at the time when we changed the rules, but as a result, we don't have that slow down period right after a pay-per-view. We get right back into it, and you see it with Anarchy's got like 7 matches. Savage has 6, and I think Warfare has like 10, which is 10 matches on a Wednesday show is kind of crazy. So I'm really excited that we get right back into it. I'm I don't have that history that you do, Paige, with Hawaiian Hardhead, but I am curious to see what he can do because I've heard positive things. Corey Smith, obviously, always a great read. Alias, first title defense, again against Ash Quinn, somebody who I think, like I said, has incrementally gotten better. So I'm kind of curious to see what she can bring in what is, in my opinion, probably her biggest match so far. I'm really excited for the tag team match just because of the stipulation. I'm very curious to see what Robbie and Thunder Knuckles can do. Where, as you said, their mouth has been taken away. If there's anybody who I think can try and be nice to somebody and make me almost believe it, it's Robbie Bourbon. Um, so we'll see there. Betsy, always a fun read in Atara, like you said, she'll bring it when she's in a situation that I think is advantageous to her and her character. I think this is, there are some I see relationship between Atara and Betsy with XWF and then with some other Fed stuff. So they do have that working relationship. It'll be cool to see how that plays out in a role play for this show. And the main event. I mean, Charlie Nichols. I think you guys had mentioned in previous segment, he's somebody that I think all of us are looking to as a character that is going to continue to grow throughout this year and is going to make some big leaps towards some of the higher end titles. But I think for right now, I think Charlie is going to put his stamp on the TV title, and who knows? I think he has the ability to be one of, if not the longest reigning TV champ.
Well, let's talk about this for a second. Back on our debut episode, one of the things that we said about Charlie was think about when he debuted. Within that first cycle of his debut, he's challenging Lackland for the Universal Championship. Not only is he challenging Lackland for the Universal Championship, he did a pretty goddamn good job uh, for being his first run. And now, since then, he has kind of went back and forth with the heavy metalweight and the featherweight belt. He's won the television championship. He's got a tag title shot in his back pocket. He's constantly revolving on different shows at different times. This guy's got potential to be dangerous.
Yeah, I completely agree, and it's funny you mentioned when he first showed up because, and I think all of us have seen this. It happens a lot where somebody shows up and then day one is challenging the Universal Champ, or wants high end matches, and it's like, all right, you kind of shake your head because it's like that's not how it's done, in the wrestling world. But Charlie did it. He showed up, asked for a match, got that match, and really put out a really solid effort against a really really good RPer. And something Lackland can do is um, right off the bat, she'll drop a couple really, really stellar RPs, and it almost makes you sit there and think, well, Jesus, like I haven't even RP'd yet, and I already feel like I'm defeated. Because she will throw some down right away, and he didn't quit. And as a result, he has gotten better and better and better every single match. I think he's probably, in my opinion, probably one of the best writers we have in this Fed in terms of exposition. If you can read even some of his like just character development stuff, or some of his X title pins, like there are a lot of things that he does in his role plays without actually having his character saying anything that I think is really exceptional. So I really am. I'm really looking forward to seeing what he does as this year progresses, and what he does with that tag or that television title.
Yeah, I mean, Bourbon, TK, do you guys have anything to add to that?
Well, yeah. I think Nichols is definitely one of the rising stars. It's hard to say he's a rising star. We already acknowledge that he is a star. He's been that television champion for so long. He's carrying it with heft. He tells stories. He's immersed. I can't speak enough like how awesome he is to have in the Fed. As for the card, top to bottom, I do look forward to seeing Hawaiian Hardhead against Corey and Savannah. I want to see what they do. We know what Corey brings to the table. This is really just we want to see what Hawaiian Hardhead's bringing to the table too. And that tag match, yeah, it's going to be an honor and pleasure working with Atara and with Betsy. They're both solid, and I look forward to it. It's going to be a lot of fun.
All right, man. TK, you have anything you want to close out that with?
I got nothing.
All right, man. We'll move right into Warfare. Wednesday night, February 17th. We're gonna be staying in Europe. Thanks, Bob. We're gonna be in Rome, Italy, at some sporting dome that I'm gonna horribly mispronounce. So we're not even gonna try it. Anybody
Palalo
want to try it?
Automatical, I think.
Okay.
I'm
Say
looking
that
at
one
it right
more time.
now. Palalo Automatical. I'm looking it up because I have never heard of such a thing. It is an ugly looking dome, though. Ew, sweet lord. But hey, it's
At
got more
least you
than
tried it.
3,000 people.
At least we're selling out. Okay, we got more than 3K there.
Oh,
We've got
11,000.
11,000 strong. Hey, we can fit 14 if we put chairs on the floor. Um, we're looking at a 10 match show. We're gonna kick things off on Warfare in an I Quit match. We got Tommy Wish, and we're gonna have him taking on Sean Wild. I'm out. I have to point this out. Is this now a rib with the Sean Wild character where we're constantly misspelling his name?
It's got to be, right?
I'm going to go with yes because I'm afraid of what the actual real answer might be. But I think so. But let me say this: Sean Wild is also somebody who I think, as this year progresses, is going to get better and better. I really enjoy reading his role plays as well. So I think he's what I would call a rising star, no matter how you spell his first name.
Yeah, well, first it was his last name that we couldn't get right. Now we can't get his first name right. And I think I called that out in a role play when I was against him, and he sent me a message on Discord, and he was like, "I love you for that." no problem, man. See what I can. Match 2, Claude Savage is in the mix against Azrael
Erebus.
Erebus. Sorry, Erebus. Yeah, last man standing. We know the rules of that. We've got. Listen, here we are again. Another tag team match. With interchangeable people. Mandy Ryder, Jenny Mist. They're going to take on Miss Fury and Serena Hazard. This is going to be a finishers only match. They can only win by using their finisher and making the pin. Which will then take us into Arkin Blackwater and Felix Jones. They're going to go in Falls Count Anywhere. Match 5, Charlie Nichols and Calypso. Here's Charlie again. This is what we literally just talked about that. He will pop up here on Saturday night. And he's going to turn around and come around and do something on Warfare on Wednesday. Match 6, the Bearded War Pig and Dr. Lewis DeVille. Take us into match 7, Thaddeus Duke taking on Marth. Match 8, Morbid Angel and Barney Green. That's going to be a tables match. Sorry, Math and Marth is First Blood. Match 9, your semi-main event. It's going to be a triple threat, Hell in a Cell. Here's Ash Quinn again. Here's Lacana. Here's Betsy Granger. That just screams epic. And then your main event is title versus title. The XWF Universal Championship versus the quote world end quote title. D is going to take on me. TK, let's start with you.
Well, the Universal title match, obviously, it's your main event. You always want to pick your main event as the go-to. That's what you want to watch, right? I want to see Barney Green and Morbid Angel get it on. It's always a winner. Bearded War Pig in a match coming back. And what a way to break them in, right, guys? Give them Doc. That's going to be a good match. Charlie coming, doing what Charlie does, bringing the fight all over the place. That's what I got. Those are what I want to watch. Oh, shoot. I forgot about the Shooting Star Championship. That's going to be a really good match. That's going to be real, real good.
Looking at the card top to bottom, it's loaded again. And, we already brought it up earlier, the roster is strong. And when we have this many loaded, just regular cards, not pay-per-views, but regular cards, that's a strong indicator of that. For me, though, spotlight has to be on the return of BWP going up against Doc, because Pig is one of those guys, he can beat Doc. Like, it can happen. I think that this match is going to be a lot more competitive than some people might think. I'm not even gonna make any kind of prediction or anything like that, but I look forward to seeing the back and forth between these two and seeing what they put out. Again, I'm excited to see Pig back. He's a good guy. He's a friend of the Fed. But that's not to undersell anybody else that's on the card either. Again, top to bottom, strong warfare. I look forward to it. Theo, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, that's a hell of a tough draw for Bearded War Pig. I mean, coming back and facing probably what I would consider the best role player we've had in the last 5-6 years. That's not an easy feat. But I agree with you, Robbie. I think that if there is somebody who can beat Dr. DeVille, it's Bearded Warpig when he's all in and he's motivated and he's got a good story to tell. He can do it. It's not easy. I don't know that there's that many that can do it, but he definitely can. Stacked card top to bottom. I'm really looking forward to seeing Charlie Nichols versus Calypso. Calypso is always a fun read. For those who haven't read his stuff before, I recommend that you do. It's entertaining. It's not the hardest hitting stuff you'll ever read, but it's funny. You're not going to read one and not laugh your face off. I guarantee it. Thaddeus Duke versus Marf. I think Marf is another one who has gotten better with each match, and that should be a good test for him. Morbid Angel, glad to see he's back. He did a great job at the pay-per-view. I'm glad to see, him changing his character up a bit. I think this is a really fun take on the Morbid Angel character, and I'm really excited to see where he takes it. Barney Green has had a really, really good past 6, 7, 8 months. He's seems very motivated, putting out some of his best stuff that I've read from him. And again, somebody who, when he's around in the Fed, he's usually fun to just kind of bullshit around with and talk to, and he's always got a story, and they're always interesting. Um, the shooting star match, Ash Quinn, Lycana, and Betsy Granger. I think that's going to be a really, really interesting match, especially with Lycana and Ash being allies at one point in the left hand and not any longer. Seeing where that goes, Betsy, I think she's going to make a fantastic shooting star champion as long as she holds on to that title. And then the main event, Big D with his quote unquote world title, and Chris Page with his universal title that took him 45 decades to win. I think this is going to be a test for Big D. He's had some good matches against some really top flight competition. I think he's gotten better as time has gone on. I think he's got a tough draw here against Chris Page, who is clearly writing some of his best stuff. And I'm kind of curious to see what he does with his character after winning the title with the alliance with Bob that I didn't see coming. And then I'm kind of curious to see where he goes with the little cliffhanger that happened at the end of the pay-per-view. But all in all, 10 matches on a Warfare right after a pay-per-view is really solid. And there's a couple people on here. I was kind of going back through all the different cards. I think there's 2 or 3 folks on this card who have 2 or 3 matches within the span of like 6 days. So that's a lot of writing. Even in this day and age where we have limited writing, 2-3 match shows, that's still a lot of RPs in a 2-week span.
Were you looking at with a 3 match or three programs? You're looking at 21 matches coming off of a huge pay per view.
Yeah,
23
that
matches.
pay-per-view had what, 11 matches, I think, maybe 11 or
Yeah,
12.
yeah. I think it was 11.
Okay.
Yeah. But that's huge. Like, the shit is rolling, and that means that you and Vinny putting out the product that equals the writing that's being put in. Like, that's my opinion. And to see 22 or 23 matches coming off of, you said it earlier, you get that post pay-per-view hangover. It's not there.
Yeah, I mean, Vinny had mentioned it because I was sitting in on part of his segment, and he had mentioned just where our roster is at in terms of talent. And I think he's right. This is probably one of the most talented rosters I've seen, top to bottom, in a long, long time. We've always had periods where, say, we're top heavy or we're mid card heavy, but I think right now we have a really good mix, top to bottom. But more than that, I think this is probably one of the best times we've ever had as a community. We have you guys doing this podcast. We have the group of people who backed up the site when we were having some site issues. They did that on their own, came together, put a plan together, went into action right away and spent hours backing up the site. And this was over like Christmas, mind you, where people in theory have other things on their mind, but they were concerned with the Fed and putting the Fed before pretty much everything else. That was truly phenomenal to see. So I think as a community, we're in a really, really great place. And that for me, that's exciting because I think the the future is very bright for us.
We're gonna shoot through some questions. Some of these we've heard before. I just saw the podcast questions thread, and I see the 22 that Charlie put in. We'll get to a couple of those.
He asked 22 questions.
No,
That's an
but
exaggeration.
Because if he did, I take back any nice thing I ever said about that guy.
no, we'll get to some of them. The first question we asked Vinny earlier. We'll ask you again from Jerry. She's kind of wanting to know, how do you think her gimmick change has turned out in your eyes?
I think it's been a positive. Jerry is somebody who I did not have much of an interact. I know she was here previously and had done some stuff, and I think it was mostly on Anarchy. But I've had some conversations with her since she came back, and she's somebody who really wants to improve and is constantly making the effort and is reaching out. Hey, how did I do on this show? What were my strengths for this week's RPs, and what were my weaknesses? She wants to get better, and she's kind of like a sponge in that regard. I think this angle with the left hand has given her purpose and direction, and I think it has shown in her work. It has helped her ramp some things up. I know for me personally, for anybody who's ever been around during my time as an active role player, I really love being in stables. Some of the most fun I've ever had is doing work in stables or in trios or even tag teams. Like I really, really love working with other people. I think that helps bring out the best in me as a writer. And I hope in turn I can help do that for other people. So I think for Lysana, it's a lot of the same stuff. I think her having other people to work with and to bounce ideas off of, I think that has really benefited her and her gimmick.
Second part of her question was, what dream match would you like to see in the XWF?
Are we talking just current roster?
Well, I mean,
Or
you can two-part it: current roster and anybody of all time.
all time, I would love to see, and I might catch some flack for this one. Sid Feder versus Mark Flynn. I don't know how many people on this podcast are familiar with either character. Robbie might be. I think
I'm
Robbie
very
might be the only one.
familiar with Mark Flynn. I've owned
Okay.
him 4 times.
No win.
Well, there you go. Yeah. I mean, Flynn, he's a lot of fun, and outside of the Fed, he hasn't been back in a while, but he's a comedian. And if you've ever listened to some of his stuff, it's really good. But I would just love to see the trash talk between the two of them. I think that's some of the better trash talk I've experienced in the Fed. So that would probably be one of my dream matchups for people no longer around. Current, I hate to do this because this is what Vinny said, but I would say Doc versus the Engineer. That would be a lot of fun. And I would love to see Robbie versus TK. I know that sounds terrible because you guys are teaming with each other, but I just think your characters going back and forth would be a lot of fun to read.
Everybody wants us broken up. They don't want it.
It's true. It's true. We don't want none of that.
Why? It's because there's money there. That's why. They're scared. They're scared of what them no good bastards can do. Am the man. Don't let them take you down.
That's enough of putting the tip of your dick in my mouth. I will admit, Vinny's tasted a little bit better, but yours lasted longer. So on that note, guys, enjoy the rest of the cast. I do have to get going. I gotta hop off. See y'all next time. Hopefully I didn't sound like too much of a douche, just enough of a douche. Signing off. Love y'all. Love the XWF.
Thanks,
We'll holler
Robbie.
at you. Okay. Yeah. You have the questions thread up. I mean, if you want to ask a couple of these, go ahead.
Yep. Bye, Bobby. Are there any ideas of making Xbox more relevant in the universe? That's the most important question everybody must know.
This is a tough one because I think if you ask Vinny, I'm like the Grinch when it comes to some of this like other stuff that is not necessarily. Long story short, yes, I think what some of the stuff that I've enjoyed with the XWF is just like some of the merch that people come up with. Like some of that stuff is just absolutely crazy. There was a time when we used to tie Xbox into like title shots. Like you earn enough Xbox, you can essentially buy yourself a title shot. Um, I don't know how long we did that, and I don't know that it really worked all that well. But I think if people really want to see Xbox come back, besides just Thunder Knuckles, who's all about them bucks, but I mean, if people want to, put it on the boards or tell us in Discord if you've got some ideas of what you think we could do with Xbox. I mean, we're always listening. We may not necessarily do everything that people ask us about, but we're always listening, and there are always discussions going on in the GM room, whether it's titles or Xbox or pay-per-views, like whatever. We discuss honestly just about everything. So if that's something that you think people want to see, you know, form a little committee and put it out there for us. Sign a little letter of intent and let us hear it.
The Thunder Knuckles committee on Xbox may just be a thing.
Do it.
TK, let's bounce back and forth because you got the podcast questions open. I got the other questions open.
Okay.
So I'll go this one, then we'll bounce back to you. Theo, what's the best and worst parts of running the XWF?
The best parts, I think it's twofold for me, right? So I love telling stories. That's where my passion is. Um, so for me, I love seeing people's stories evolve, and seeing what people can come up with. You and Thad recently with your story that's been going on for 6 months, but in EFED years, that feels like an eternity. Um, so seeing where people go with their stories, that's exciting. The other thing is people show up and they do their first role play, second role play, and you can tell that there is a lot of talent there, but they're just not ready for the XWF yet. But they put in the work. They ask the questions. They'll ask staff, "Hey, what do I have to do to be successful here?" Or they'll read some of the people that are successful, and they'll take some things from those role plays and they'll incorporate them into their own. Watching people grow as writers and seeing how they struggle at first, but then how excited they get when they start having more success. That's pretty fun to see, from a GM admin standpoint.
Okay.
All right. When will we hear more news about the merger of belts, heavy metalweight, featherweight, so on? Whatever belts are getting merged.
I would say in the next week or so. Again, that's one of those things where we are discussing it, and we're trying to come up with. There's been a lot of different ideas that have been thrown about by the staff, by the roster. Um, so I think we're trying to incorporate as many requests as possible. So I would say in the next week or two, we'll get some kind of definitive answer.
If for some reason the Price Lane era ended, what would happen? What would you want to see happen with the XWF? Would you shut it down, or would you entrust it to someone else?
I mean, I would definitely not shut it down. I think the XWF is forever. Um, I think if there is somebody there that expresses an interest in wanting to take over, and it's somebody that we're comfortable with, I don't see why that would be the case. I mean, ultimately, that's Lane's decision. He may ask me for my opinion on it, but ultimately, that comes down to what he wants to do. But I don't think it's something that he has any interest in walking away from right now. But yeah, I think as long as there's somebody with interest and ability, I don't see why I can't carry on for someone else.
Yeah, they pretty much did the same thing.
Yep. They practiced.
Yeah, they did. And they discussed.
What do you think about people sending in attack segments without asking? Can you talk about how it would spice up feds and shows?
Yeah, so as long as I've been in the XWF, people have not needed to ask. And I don't know that we will ever require them to do so. I think there is. I get both sides of the coin. I really do, and I've been in feds where you cannot do that kind of thing, where you have to get permission. But I appreciate the surprise of it, and And if somebody attacks you and you don't want to sell it, I mean, that's not something we want to see. But at the end of the day, that's your choice, you know. But I think some of the most fun stuff that I've read has been a complete surprise. I've been attacked before, and I've had done sneak attacks on people, and sometimes when they're completely shocked and it completely catches them off guard, that's where you can do some of your best work. So I'm pro not getting approval for sneak attacks, but I certainly sympathize with people who want a little bit more control and want that stuff to be worked out ahead of time. So I get that. But I will say this, if somebody submits a sneak attack, as staff, we should be looking it over and making sure that it is not something that isn't, I don't want to say unrealistic, but is disrespectful. If you have somebody coming in doing a sneak attack and they're doing something to the other character that is just really, there's no real way to spin that other than that character ends up looking like a total dickhead at the end of the day. That's not something we want to see, because then that delves into OOC issues and nobody wants that. So by all means, do a sneak attack. Don't tell the person you're attacking, but don't be an asshole about it.
That's a really good answer. I like that. Chris?
Yeah. If you were to have a one-off with anyone on the roster, who would it be and why?
Thunder Knuckles.
Currently on the roster. Sorry, currently on the roster.
Easy. I really enjoy Thunder Knuckles stuff. Like, I am all about comedy. Anybody who's read some of my stuff, what I would consider some of my best work is stuff that I did with the Kings, and it's because I had characters like John Samuels, John Madison, and Dr. Deville where I could play kind of a comedy foil for some of those guys and just do some truly like outlandish and ridiculous things in the role plays. Thunder Knuckles is somebody who I read. I'm just like, yeah, this guy gets it. Like, his stuff is funny, and that's not to say that comedy is what's going to win you every match, but it's the stuff that I truly enjoy reading. If there was an alternative to Thunder Knuckles, somebody who isn't on this podcast, um, I would say I was going to say Sean Warstein, but you guys mentioned him earlier, and I don't want his head getting any bigger.
Five.
Just did. Jesus
I know.
Christ. You broke the quota.
I mean, crud. Gun to my head, Charlie Nichols.
There you go.
That would be a fun match.
All right. So the next question comes as do you ever feel the urge to come back and start RPing competitively again? And I'll actually give that a second question and have us judge between you and Vinny. That would be a good match.
I absolutely do not ever have the urge to RP competitively. Not only do I not want to do it here as an admin, I just feel like that's a gray area that I don't want to ever have people complaining. I'm happy in the role I have. I'm happy helping to put shows together and reading the role plays and working with the roster. I don't need to add that other element to it. If I want to role play, I'll do it somewhere else where they require less work. We've scaled down from unlimited RPs for every match to 2 or 3, but that's still too much work for me. I'm in an advanced stage where I just don't want to do it. So no, I don't ever want to competitively RP here again. If I were, would I have a match with Vinny? Absolutely. Him and I, we've had 2 matches. We've had 2 matches against each other, I think, and they were both trios matches. And I think we are 1-1. One of the matches was the most recent one was the King. So it was me, John Madison, and John Samuels against Vinny Lane, John Brown, and James Raven. I think that match was actually what kind of brought James Raven back to the Fed. And that was a lot of fun. We won that match, by the way. And the other one was a long time ago. I think it was back when Vinny had first shown up in the Fed. So this was like 2014. I think it was a trios match. It was me, Sebastian Duke, and Azriel, I think, against Vinny. And I don't remember who his 2 partners were. But I mean, he carried that match, like straight up. He carried that match. And we lost that one. So he and I are 1-1 against each other in trios matches. But he'd smack me hard in a singles match. I have no bones about it. He would.
All right.
Who do you think we should be keeping our eyes on in 2021? And who do you believe is about to have that major year? Which I guess is the same question.
I want to say, like I said, Charlie, Lacana. I mean, does Alias count? Like, Alias already holds the second highest title in the Fed. So I feel
Absolutely.
like he's kind of already put his trajectory as somebody to look forward to. I mentioned Sean Wilde earlier. I think if Jim Jimson wants to get serious, and I don't mean that as a slight, like I think he enjoys what he does, and I think he's very good at it. But I think he has the talent to write seriously and be very good at it. I think he's somebody that could take a big step forward. I mean, I think Betsy is somebody that could really do a lot with that division. Jerry, I think Jerry's another one that has gotten better with each match. So I'm excited to see what's there. Corey, I mean, we know Corey is a hell of a writer, so anytime Corey wants to challenge for the Universal title or the X title, I think that's a foregone conclusion that they'll have some success. I feel like I'm probably forgetting somebody, and I feel bad if I do. But I think those are kind of some of the main people that have been discussed so far, and some of the ones that I read consistently.
All right. Next question. How much do you love Centurion?
Not even a little bit.
And that's my last question. That was
If
posted
there's
by
one person in this Fed I could do without, it's probably him.
He'll love to
Don't
hear
at
that
me,
on the
bro.
podcast.
Oh, I'm sure I'll wake up to 45 different messages from him on Twitter, on Discord, on Facebook. Why do you hate me, Theo? How much time you got?
Definitely, man. But he's such a fucking great guy. He
Oh,
really
I
is.
agree. He is fun, and he's a fun read on Facebook when he just gets all political. I just sit there and laugh. I'm like, yeah, I agree. Yep, that guy is a
He-
dickhead.
It's like back when the elections were going out or in the primaries, like I was poking the bear. I just wanted to get him to blow. It was that's some shit.
Oh, I mean, it's something he's very passionate about, so it does not take much to get him riled up
No,
when you throw something political at him.
it's definitely interesting. All right, I got another question for you. With the hard title, we asked Vinny this earlier too. With the hard title being dedicated to Owen Hart, and with the information that we've just learned here that we've had someone pass away over a decade ago, would you guys consider rechristening the TV title as the Phoenix Championship and keeping it under the same TV title rules?
Yeah, so I actually didn't know anything about this until I saw the question asked today. So I have no history with this person. Paige, do you?
I do not. Now, here's what I know. This is what I told Vinny earlier. When I was around back in like '05 for a cup of coffee, the Phoenix title was present. Like it was there. It was accounted. It was in circulation. I don't know what happened after the fact. I know that the championship did exist.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm all for swapping around title names. I think the extreme title, that one has to stay for obvious reasons. But every other title, Heart title, Universal, TV, whatever, I am fine changing their names. I think Phoenix title sounds pretty cool. Certainly better than TV title. So if people wanted to change it to that and keep the things about the TV title that make it interesting, the 15-minute time limit, defending it every Savage, I'm fine with that. I would do that tomorrow if that's what people wanted to do, and Lane was cool with it, and the rest of the GMs were cool with it.
So that's awesome. Think Mike Well, you know what? Last one. Would you rather lose the ability to speak or the ability to read?
The ability to speak in a heartbeat, because I don't like talking to people as it is. So not having the ability to do so means I don't have to come up with an excuse for why I don't want to.
Listen.
Excellent
So,
answer.
is there
Thank you.
anything that you want to address? Like, is there anything you want to talk about? Is there? I mean, let's talk about like the booking of the shows and how all that works. Like, Vinny made it really clear with the cast that he has around him to support him. Like, obviously, you're in the pecking order. It's Vinny. You would be obviously the number two guy. It takes a lot for three different programs to run simultaneously. So, what's your process with that? Like, how do you go about delegating who's doing what and who's doing this and keep the parts moving?
Yeah, so I mean, much like when we put together the role play rules we have now, one of the aspects of that was to try and lessen burnout. And I think we've been successful with that. And I think having all of these, like we said earlier, having all these shows right after a pay per view with as many matches as we have is a testament to that. As a GM, one of the things I was always big on, and this was even true the first time I was a GM back in like 2014, 2015, is for however many shows we have, I prefer we have a team of people working on that show. I don't want any one person to be responsible for that show every week or every 2 weeks because you can get burned out easily. There's a lot of work that potentially goes into a show. Right now, we have two GMs per show, and typically they alternate. Um, but in addition to that, someone like myself or like Vinny, or we have one, is there one kind of GM who floats around and kind of helps out where it's needed. It's truly a team aspect. So even if, say, Karen is running a Savage, Atticus is helping out, or Smoking Bob is helping out, or Derek, or myself, or the floating GM, or Vinny. Like we truly do things as a team. Um, so that's very important, so that any one person isn't shouldering all the blame. The GMs of those shows are the ones that primarily book the cards every 2 weeks. They may ask for input from other people, but primarily it's what they do. I usually book the pay-per-views. That's kind of my thing. I kind of focus on some more of the long-term planning aspects of the Fed. So coming up with the pay-per-view schedule or the Warfare and Savage schedule, that's something that I do. I will certainly ask for input as I'm putting together the pay per view card, and I'll put it out there to the GMs and say, hey, here's what I'm thinking of booking. What do you think? Is there anything I need to change? Is there anything I need to add or remove or whatever? Because I do think it's important that we have a full team buy in on everything we do. And I think it's important to have that discussion. So that's kind of how the shows are booked. I do a lot of the judging for the shows because I don't enjoy match writing, and I don't do it. So as a trade off, I do a lot of the judging. But for big shows like pay per views, we'll have a judging thread that in this case Vinny put it together for Snow Job, where he'll assign out who's judging what for each match, and we had like 3 or 4 judges per match. Um, because there was a lot of reading that had to be done for the pay per view. So that's some more of the behind the scenes stuff, I guess you'd say, behind the curtain. Hopefully that answered your question.
Yeah, no, definitely. I'll tell you like I told Vinny. I, Coming from running the Fed that I was involved in for over a decade, dude, you guys have the most thankless job of them all because you not only do you get to reap the rewards of the positive, but you have to deal with the bullshit of the negative, and to see the healthy balance that you and Vinny have in that regard is it's almost incredible because well, yes, you do have people that just don't know how to act, but you guys will jump on it real quick and squash it, and it's done. It's over. Like, if there's any kind of issue, it's super simple to rectify, which
Yeah.
makes it way easier for guys like for the role players, for all of us to come in and just be ourselves.
Yeah, and I think that you bring up a good point. Like, there's always going to be issues. We're not perfect. Thad likes to remind me that I screwed up the schedule one time, But there's going to be issues, whether it's with how you felt you were portrayed in a match, or maybe you didn't like the judgment of the match, or maybe it was an attack segment, whatever it is. If you have an issue, please bring it to Vinny or I. Please don't ever go to match writers or to other members of the Fed. Like, let us hash that out. Let us be the ones that deal with the grief, so that people can just kind of go about their day and have fun, because this is supposed to be fun and we want to keep it as fun as we possibly can. So let us handle the not fun aspects of it. And for the most part, it's few and far between. We really don't have a lot of issues, again, because I think we have a very good community currently. But yeah, I mean, we have a solid team. We really do. We have a really solid GM team. Everyone's working together constantly to put out quality shows on time that people enjoy reading.
That's the name of the game, man. So we got obviously we got March Madness that's on our heels. With here's another question for you. Where do you see the March Madness tournament going? I mean, it looks like we just put the thread out, the sign up thread out, went out today or yesterday. I can't remember which day it was, but I saw that it was immediately jumped on. How many
Yeah,
people
we've
you
got
think
19 people. We've got 19 people so far that have opted in for it as of last count.
That's fucking huge.
It is, and if we can get 32 people, that would be the ultimate for me, I think. If we get 32. At this point, I'm just hoping we can get some even numbers so that it makes it a little easier to kind of do brackets and stuff like that. Like, I would love, when I say 32, I say that because then I can have nothing but one-on-one matches. Anything between 16 and 32, now we're talking triple threats or four corners, stuff like that. And I'm not opposed to that at all, to whittle down the numbers, but I would love for the entire tournament to be one-on-one. So, if there's people out there that want to do the work and opt in more than one character, they are welcome to do so. Again, the pay-per-view itself, it's going to have the quarterfinal matches, so the final four, and then the final match, and then it's going to have that second chance battle royal for anybody who is in the tournament and gets eliminated, and or anybody who shows up to the Fed after the tournament has started and wants a chance to be the king or queen of the XWF for the next year.
Awesome, dude. I love it. I love it.
I do have one question about March Madness, though.
Sure.
Are you, in fact, going to release the brackets?
I want to say no, just because fuck that guy, and I won't say his name, but fuck that guy. We all know who I'm talking about. What we will do, right, is we will have drawings on video of the first round and the second round, or however many rounds we have, right? So we've done this in the past, I think, with March Madness, and I know we've done it with Lethal Lottery, where a roster member will do a YouTube video announcing the matchups. So, I mean, to an extent, yes, we are going to release the brackets, and that's how we're going to do it. But in terms of, like, once we have the field set, like the initial matches set, am I going to release who faces who? Like, say match one is Chris Page versus Thunder Knuckles, and then another match that we have set is Robbie Bourbon versus Bearded Warpig. Am I going to show the bracket where, if Thunder Knuckles was to win and Bearded Warpig was to win, who would they conceivably face in the next round? I don't know. And that's not because I want to be shady about anything. It's because I just don't know. Like, again, we'll do the drawings, so the matches are going to be completely random. Like, we're going to have, the GMs are going to have no say on who's facing who in each round. So I don't know that we need to actually draw up a bracket and put it on the website to appease the naysayers. I think the videos will kind of speak for themselves.
If they're all random draws and you're drawing on video, I mean, what the fuck does it matter?
I mean, that's what I said. But, there's some people that just like to watch the world burn.
You don't know how much I'm smiling right now, and uh,
I mean, and seriously, I do want roster members. So like, anybody who's listening to this, if you would like to do a video for these drawings, please let us know. We're going to give priority to people who have not done one before because we want people to have that opportunity. If no one speaks up, then we'll hit up the people that have done them before and say, hey, do you want to do it again? But our priority is for people who have never done one and want to try it. And you don't have to put your face on the video. If you want to wear a mask, do it. People have. So I get that too. But if you want to have some fun, let us know.
TK, man, we forgot to ask the most important question, bro.
Which is what?
I'm scared.
Yeah, man. What did you think about the sweet new intro?
I thought it was fantastic. I really did. I'm excited to see what people's reaction is to the intro and to the outro, and I think just to a more polished product, so to speak. I'm curious to see what people think about having guests on, and if they enjoyed, hopefully, Vinny and I's contribution to this. I know you guys will have more guests on, just roster members. So I'm excited to see what this podcast does. And like I said on the boards, I think, when you put out the first episode, I'm really excited to see how this podcast evolves.
I
and
mean,
what you
the
guys do.
beautiful thing about it is like we jokingly talk about this. We put that fucking thing together in 72 hours, man. It's like I said at the beginning of the show, man. You give us a week, and here we are. We're gonna make advancements, and we do this because hey, we want to entertain people. We want to entertain you guys. Like we get it. We live in a real shitty world right now, so everybody needs a little sunshine in their life. We can bring that.
Yeah,
to
and I
you.
mean, and this was completely, driven by you guys. Like, this is not a management initiative at all. This was something that the community wanted to do, whether it's because you guys were just bullshitting and said, hey, we'll just do a podcast, and then maybe somebody was
There you
joking,
go.
but then it
Nailed
became a
it.
real thing, or what. I don't know. I mean, 2020 became the year of podcasts, I think. Like I've never listened to them before, and now I listen to like 3 or 4. So it was great that roster members came together and said, we're going to do a podcast, and here's what we're going to do, and here's how we're going to involve different aspects of the community by letting them ask questions or by bringing guests on. I think that's awesome. I really, really do. And I think the more that the community gets involved, the better the Fed is going to be. And I think the bigger it's going to get. So yeah, I'm super excited.
I know TK's excited. He gets to go through all of it and edit it.
Oh yeah, that's my favorite part.
Yeah,
Definitely when
want
it's
to be
like a
him. I'm not gonna lie.
3-hour show, guys. So far, it's been
Yeah,
like a 3-hour
kind of where
show.
we're at. We just hit WWE level of pay per view. I end it this week with 2 announcements. This is something that I had talked to Bobby and TK about and got their opinion on it. And then when we all kind of agreed that it would be the kind of the right thing to do and it'd be a fun thing to do. And of course, we go to Theo and Benny and we asked them and they agreed. Moving forward with Superstar of the Month and Roleplay of the Month, if the 2 participants that win those awards are available, we're gonna sweeten the pot and let you have an all access to the podcast for an episode. Which means that you'll be able to listen to us as we're recording the show. There's a lot of shit that goes on that you don't see and you won't see and you won't hear. Some of it's funny, some of it's stupid, some of it you just roll your eyes at. If you're available and you want to do it, and of course I'll be reaching out to you, that's something that we want to do just to kind of throw that little incentive in there for the role players and for the work that you're putting out. Because without the work that you guys are putting out, the work that Theo and Vinny are doing, it's irrelevant. It doesn't matter if they're doing it for you and you're doing it for them, which I think is going to be great. TK, what are your thoughts on that? I mean, I know that you're on the same boat that I'm on, but a little extra.
A little extra, and that's all you're getting because you pretty much nailed it.
Perfect. So we'll be doing our next show on the 24th. JB, the Thugs, Handler will be our guest. We're going to cover all the programs. We'll have Anarchy. We'll have a review of Anarchy, a review of Savage, a review of Warfare. Listen, 23 matches, 3 shows coming off of pay-per-view. It's going to be a huge week for the XWF, a huge cycle leading into March Madness. Vinny's not in the program anymore. I want to thank him for his time. Theo, man, we appreciate you stepping on and coming in and talk to us. The door's always open for you. You have If there's anything you want to talk about, you're 100% welcome whenever you want.
I appreciate it. I really do. Like I said, I'm super excited to see what you guys do with this. I'm really looking forward to seeing JB on the next one. I think he's probably one of our most unheralded roster members. There's nothing flashy about him, but he's there. He's always there. He's doing the work as an RPer, as a match writer. He's just a really solid guy, and I think it'll be great to have his perspective on things on the next podcast.
It's gonna be great, man. We're gonna make some headway. So again, guys, for Theo, for Thunder Knuckles, for Bobby Bourbon, who take off early, for Bearded War Pig, who no showed us again. This is Chris Page, man. We're starting off episode 2. Guys, have a good night.
And enjoy the outro.
Yes, please do. It's awesome.
All right, guys. Have a good one.
All right, man.
Thanks for listening to the XWF podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the XWF YouTube channel. Follow us on Twitter at XWF1999. And don't forget to check us out at XWF99.com. Be sure to join us next time where the action never slows down.